My brothers and sisters, I want to ask you something very personal today. And I want you to sit with this question for a moment before I move forward. How many times have you made dua? You raised your hands, you cried, you begged Allah, you poured your heart out at night, and then nothing happened? How many times have you worked hard, you sacrificed, you stayed consistent, and yet the result you were expecting simply did not come? How many times did you feel like you were doing everything right, but the door just would not open? If you have felt that, and I believe every single one of us has, then this is a conversation you need to hear. Not just listen to. Hear. Because there is a difference between listening to words and allowing those words to actually land in your heart and change the way you think, the way you react, and ultimately the way you live. Today we are talking about sabr, patience. But I need you to understand something before we go any further. The sabr that Islam speaks about is not the passive, defeated, sit in the corner, give up on life type of patience that many people misunderstand it to be. It is not a word you use to mask pain without processing it. It is not a spiritual bypass. It is not a way of saying, I'll just accept everything and never try again. No, that is not sabr. That is surrender in the wrong direction. The sabr that Allah speaks about in the Qur'an, the sabr that He repeatedly praises, rewards, and elevates, is something far more dynamic, far more powerful, and far more connected to genuine success than most people realize. And today, I want to take you through this concept in a way that by the end of this conversation, you will never look at patience the same way again. You will not use it as an excuse. You will not use it as a crutch. You will understand it as a weapon of the believer. Let us begin. The word sabr in Arabic comes from the root letters sin, ba, ra. And those root letters carry with them a meaning that is deeply tied to restraint, to holding steady, to enduring without breaking. In classical Arabic, the word was used to describe a type of bitter herb. Think about that for a moment. The very word for patience in this deen is etymologically tied to something bitter. Something that does not taste good. Something that goes against the natural desire of your tongue. And that tells you everything you need to know. Sabr was never meant to be easy. It was never dressed up as something comfortable or effortless. The scholars of Islam have defined sabr as holding yourself steady upon the obedience of Allah, restraining yourself from what Allah has prohibited, and bearing with dignity what Allah has decreed for you. 3 dimensions, 3 layers, and all 3 require effort. All 3 require active engagement. None of them are passive. Ibn al-Qayyim, one of the greatest scholars this ummah has ever produced, said something so profound when he described sabr as the backbone of the believer's journey. He said that without sabr, faith collapses. Because the entire journey of a believer, from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you close your eyes at night, requires restraint, requires persistence, requires endurance. Every salah you pray when you are tired is sabr. Every haram you walk away from when your nafs is pulling you toward it is sabr. Every loss you absorb without losing your trust in Allah is sabr. It is woven into the very fabric of a Muslim's existence. And here is what makes it directly connected to success. Because success, real, lasting, meaningful success, never comes to the person who quits when things get hard. It never comes to the person who allows circumstances to define their relationship with Allah. It never comes to the person who abandons their purpose every time the path becomes difficult. Success, by its very nature, is something that sits on the other side of difficulty. And the only vehicle that gets you from difficulty to success is sabr. Now I want to take you to the words of Allah. Because everything I say has to be rooted there. And the Qur'an's treatment of sabr is unlike anything else. Allah mentions patience. And the patient ones, the sabirin, over 90 times in the Qur'an. 90 times. Let that number settle with you. Of all the qualities, of all the virtues that a believer can possess, patience is mentioned more than nearly any other. That is not coincidence. That is emphasis. That is Allah telling you repeatedly across so many chapters and contexts that this quality matters. This quality is central. In Surah Az-Zumar, Allah says, and I want you to feel the weight of this, that the patient ones will be given their reward without measure, without account, without limit. Every other deed in Islam has a multiplier. 10 times, 700 times, however Allah wills. But for sabr, Allah removes the cap entirely. He says the reward will be without any reckoning. Because patience is the one deed that is so personal, so internal, so deeply rooted in the private relationship between the servant and his Lord, that Allah Himself takes charge of the reward in a way that has no ceiling. And then in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah gives us one of the most powerful formulas in the entire Qur'an. He says He is with the sabirin, not just watching them, not just aware of them, but with them. In Arabic, this is called ma'iyah, the special companionship and support of Allah. And Allah uses this specific word for very few categories of people. He says He is with those who have taqwa, and He is with those who have sabr. That is the company you want to be in. That is the divine accompaniment you want for your journey. Because think about it practically. If Allah is with you, truly with you, supporting you, strengthening you, guiding you, then what exactly can stop you? What trial is too great? What door is too heavy? What enemy is too powerful? The person who has Allah's company in their patience is never truly alone, never truly defeated, never truly without a way forward. And then there is Surah Al-Imran, where Allah says to those who believe, be patient, be more patient than your enemy in patience. Remain steadfast and fear Allah so that you may be successful. Look at that sequence. Patience, more patience, steadfastness, taqwa, success. That is the roadmap. That is the actual formula for falah, for comprehensive success in this world and the next. Allah is not vague about it. He lays it out explicitly. And sabr is not just step one. It runs through every step of that process. Now I want to take you through some of the most powerful examples of sabr in human history. Because theory without example is incomplete. And the examples Allah gives us in the Qur'an are not meant to be admired from a distance. They are meant to be learned from. They are meant to be internalized. They are meant to change how you respond to your own difficulties. Let us begin with Nabi Ayub alayhi salam, Prophet Job. This is a man who by all accounts was blessed beyond measure. Wealth, health, family, a community that respected him, a relationship with Allah that was the envy of the angels themselves. And then everything was taken. Not gradually, but completely. His wealth disappeared. His children died. His body was struck with illness so severe that his own people could not bear to be near him. His wife, the one companion who stayed, was reduced to working as a servant to keep them alive. This went on for years. Some narrations say 18 years. Others say longer. And what did Nabi Ayub do? He did not curse Allah. He did not abandon his faith. He did not declare that worship was pointless because his dua was not being answered. He held on. And when he finally called out, when he finally said, "Oh Allah, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of those who show mercy," that call was answered so completely, so comprehensively, that Allah restored to him double of what he had lost: his health, his wealth, his family. And his name became, for all of history, the symbol of patience rewarded. What is the lesson? That your timeline is not Allah's timeline. That what feels like abandonment is often preparation. That the depth of your trial is sometimes a measure of the magnitude of what Allah is preparing to give you. Nabi Ayub did not know when it would end. He did not know how it would end. But he kept his connection to Allah alive.